My name is Freddy Wangabo, and I work with the World Peasants Indigenous Organization. Our purpose, our mission is to ensure that the rights of indigenous minorities are protected, and mainly we focus on the Pygmies because they have got many problems.
What are some of those problems?
Some of the problems that Pygmy people are facing today, one of them is slavery, exploitation, and they are kind of ignored by states where they live. Slavery, for example, I would like to talk about the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they are kind of kept into slavery by mining companies. They are exploited by individuals who sell them to companies for, and they don't get any pay. And for that we have a campaign we call 10 for 1 Peace campaign, which has got 10 advocates who take on the community level a very patient campaign, and that campaign involves sometimes very influential people in the community, including fellows of the WPIO and volunteers.
Let's go back to some of the problems that face the Pygmies, particularly the slaves. What are they called, the slaves, in the local language?
They are called the Baja, and the Baja is a she term that people say normally to designate people who are owned or who have no right at all. Who have no right at all. Who,
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to go back on that again. Tell me more about the Badger.
the Baja people are people who are either owned by individuals or people who are sold to individuals for exploitation. They are sometimes given to mining companies to work for them, and they don't get any pay for this, and any damage, be physical, be psychological, they don't get reparations. They just work in exploitation, and their lives, the one who determines on their lives are the masters, their bosses, the people who own them, who control them.
And you yourself, you have members of your family who've been Badger, I think.
I've had members of my family who have worked under exploitation as Baja, and who have been owned by people. So
Your father, I think, was one of them.
my father was one of them at certain given time. He was owned by people. Sometime in the past he was captured by Pierre Mulele, a former fighter in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And when he was being owned, he was forced to do horrible things that kind of torture, trauma, and up to now he's 84, but he's still traumatized and he doesn't like remembering the things. And some of the things which happened to them sometime during that time, they were being eaten. People, the fighters were eating them, and he remembers his friend who was caught up by Pierre Mulele's fighters, and he was eaten, and they asked him also to eat part of the meat of his friend, but he said, no, I can't do that. How can I eat a person? And up to date, people have got that feeling like pygmies are animals. They are not eco-human beings. And if you look today, these people are going under extinction, and governments are not really paying any attention whatsoever. They are going human rights abuse, murder, torture, rape, sexual abuse. No one at all is paying any attention to this. As an example, you might see the Democratic Republic of Congo. Every day we get rapes reported, but no one is reporting about forest people. No one is reporting about indigenous people. And these are people who are getting raped by the Interahamwe militia groups, the Mai Mai militia groups, but no one, they just talk about what is happening in Goma with the soldiers. Um, they talk about what is happening in Bukavu, in Uvira, but in areas where you cannot access, there is nobody talking about this. And I will be very unhappy when in future in the international community and governments will come openly to say sorry to what happened to pygmies and other indigenous people living in forests, like in the Democratic Republic of Congo, because I think they are listening to what we are saying, but they are doing no actions. Actions should be taken now. If the Millennium Development Goal is to be made, is to be implemented, it shouldn't be implemented only in cities, on people who can be seen, but it should be implemented also on the minorities, on the indigenous people like the pygmies. And pygmies have got a different class. We have got the Batwa, we have got the Bambuti, we have got the Bayanda, we have got the Batiri, we have got the Aka people, we have got the Baka. All these people should be taken into account. And when we talk about millennium goals, these are the people who should be focused on, including vulnerable people like the women and children. We should really look into this.
Let me ask you, going back to some of the stories that your father has told you of his time as a slave, was this as a result of the system in those days, the fact that you had tribal chiefs or kings who imposed their authority on other people? Was that a product of that system?
Actually, yes. What we have in the past, what we are having today, the discrimination we have against pygmies, the myth we have against pygmies today, is the results of what happened in the past in history.
And what were some of the things
because,
that happened then?
because in the past, if you will talk to my father, he could tell you horrible things which happened to him. Example, the king. The king, he could not go to toilet in the forest because they did not have toilets. But what he could do, they could take kind of a pot, they could take kind of a basket where he could put his feces, and after that they would call upon a pygmy to come and take the basket or the basin, whatever it is, and go to the forest and throw it. And when they come back, they don't wash that basket or they don't wash that basin, but they put local beer, and that local beer, they give it to a pygmy to drink. And these were traditional beliefs that a slave owned, when they do that, it gives lots of honor to the king. And even the pygmies, even the voiceless people themselves, even the other indigenous people who were drinking that, they came to believe that it's true, and they came to believe like the king is kind of a certain god, a certain super person, that they should do that. And people who have been seeing all this have grown up with the myth that pygmies are not human beings, they are animals, they should be treated as such, and this is what is happening today.
And you've documented a lot of rape against pygmy women. Was there some kind of a belief that pygmy women were sexually more fertile?
It is quite interesting what is happening, because it's not only happening in countries where we have the war, where we have war. It's happening in all countries where the pygmies live. Where the pygmies live, people have got this belief that when you have got deadly disease like HIV/AIDS, like hepatitis B, any incurable diseases, you've got back pain, you've got something like Ebola which will give you only a few hours to live, you have to go and sleep with a pygmy woman, you have sex with them, and when you have sex with them, this will cure you, this will help you. And this is a belief that people have got, and these have kind of really added rape, sexual abuse, assault to the pygmy women, and it has contributed very much to the extinction of these people.